Boker Tov, everyone. Rabbi Eric Solomon in Raleigh, North Carolina. It is the 8th of May, and I want to offer a little teaching, not only from our Torah portion, but also in honor of Shabbat. I need to get out there because I'm going to be running this morning, right after concluding this, running for Ahmaud, the African-American man who was devastatingly and shockingly murdered by two white men while running. And I'm running in honor of him, in memory of him. So I want to get out there and do the little piece I can to raise consciousness. And of course, we're watching his case very closely. So let me dedicate this teaching to him and his soul and to his family who are in deep mourning. What's my teaching? We talked earlier this week about the issue of Kiddush Hashem and Chilul Hashem. It says in the Torah portion, you shall sanctify my name. And we talked about the idea of what it means to honor God's name, God forbid, or to desecrate God's name. So one of my favorite honoring God's name story is actually a story I learned from Ruth Messinger, former Manhattan Borough president, and I'm grateful to say a friend who I've admired, a teacher and leader over the years. She's been a great teacher of mine. She currently, and has led for a while, she recently stepped down, but she's kind of emeritus, of American Jewish World Service, which is the premier Jewish organization throughout the world, but really focused in North America, that takes Jewish charitable dollars and delivers it to help all peoples in poverty, especially those in the global south throughout the world. And it has certain foci that it goes to work on in terms of women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and other projects that go to help local communities, learning in solidarity, learning from local communities what their challenges are throughout the entire world, and then seeing what money and expertise can go forward to help to bring these forward. This instance is like Jewish mission trips, but there's no converting and there's no indoctrination. There's no discussion of, there's curiosity about Judaism on behalf of these organizations, the receiving groups, but there's no religious proselytizing the process. It's just simply, this is our job, doing tikkun olam, to go out into the world and serve the world, not only the Jewish people in the countries which we live, but to help those in the world, the global south, who struggle the most, usually on a day-to-day basis. So I've been honored to be, as a rabbi, to participate in a few of their experiences. They have rabbinic fellowships where we go out and see some of the work that's being done in the field. I traveled to both Ghana and Guatemala with American Jewish World Service, with the groups of rabbis, where we did some service and have a chance to see on the ground organizations receiving funds and how they're being put to work to help. In Guatemala, for example, with midwife groups of midwives who go out to the hinterlands in some dangerous situations to serve and help give women's care, birth care, to women in direly desperate, poverty-stricken situations, through training and organization and safety. Remarkable. Helping journalists in Guatemala who are reporting the truth but have their lives threatened, to help provide safety for them. So it's unbelievably inspiring what they do. In Ghana, we focus on child trafficking and child slavery, and saw an actual place where children are redeemed from slavery and kept and rehabilitated before they're brought back to society, sometimes back to their families, and other times not. These are longer stories, but you can get the sense of how powerful American Jewish World Service is. So one of the stories that Ruth Messinger tells that I've told before, but I want to tell it again, about what is Kiddush Hashem, honoring God's name, making religion look good, making the Torah look good, is, as I said, AJWS serves around the entire world in places where there are Jewish communities, but many places where there are no Jewish communities. In fact, sometimes this is the first time this community has ever met someone Jewish. They don't know anything about Judaism. But over the years, in certain places, like this one place, I think it was somewhere in Asia, in Southeast Asia, in the hinterland, in this small country village, there's been returning trips because it's a fundee, it's received funds from the American Jewish World Service, and they've gotten to build relationships with the organization. So one time, a student, wasn't my trip, another set of rabbinic colleagues went to visit this town, and we're doing service in some fields, maybe related to water, I think, and well support, and met a local person who came up and saw the person, probably was wearing a yarmulke, head covering, and said, "Are you Jewish?" And first was a little surprised because, never been, what does that mean? Not that it was anti-Semitism, but you just said, "Well, yes, I am." And the person said, well, you know what? I'm Jewish too. And this rabbi was floored. In the middle of Southeast Asia, in the middle of, there's no synagogue in this town. Asia was said there's no established Jewish community here. You know, of course, one never knows 100%. There's an old Jewish song, wherever you go, there's always someone Jewish. You know, so he said, well, maybe there's someone, I don't know. So he said, wow, I didn't realize there's is there a Jewish community here? He says, no, not really. He said, do you go to a synagogue? He said, no, I don't go to synagogue. He said, but he repeated, he said, but I'm Jewish. And he goes, okay, well, what do you mean you're Jewish? Do you keep the Sabbath? Do you eat kosher food? So I'm Jewish because I've learned from all of our guests and our friends what being Jewish is. And I realized I'm one too. And he says, well, what is it? He says, well, being Jewish means you want to make the world a better place. And you do things to make that happen. And so I'm Jewish too. And the rabbi was so touched. And I think even maybe got a tear in his eye. That is Kiddush Hashem. That is honoring God's name. If all this person knows, doesn't know anything about the Torah, doesn't know stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, doesn't know about Egypt and the Exodus with Moses and Miriam and Passover, high holidays, how to pray, Shabbat. But all they know about Judaism is it's a belief in making the world better and willing to do things to make that happen. And he says, I want to identify as that. That is Kiddush Hashem. That is honoring God's name. And that is what I think is the ideal for all of us as a Jewish community, but of other religious communities. And also say as Americans, you know, as an American, what I want the world to hear when I hear America is what Morris Glass said, who Holocaust survivor, may rest in peace, from my congregation, used to say, that moment when he was liberated from Auschwitz and he saw the American tank come over the horizon with a big white star. He said, that's America. America comes to save the one who are suffering. That is the greatness of America. And he said, he was grateful for America. He was incredibly proud to be an American. And that was the primary thing he saw about America. And that is our goal. And when things happen, like with this young African-American man being murdered, or people standing up and using anti-Semitic slogans to protest opening our economy, or other aspects using racial slurs to describe Asian Americans because of perception this is a Chilul Hashem. This is not what we want America to be associated with. The goal of our religious practice must always be not just about belief and about proving we're better than or how strict we are, although, you know, religious practice is important and holy. But ultimately it's about what we do, and does what we do make the world better? And ultimately from that, it makes the name of our religion and our community better. That's a beautiful, beautiful consequence that I hope lasts for all. So I wish everyone a sweet Shabbat, a restful Shabbat, a safe Shabbat. And may we all find ways, as we get into Shabbat, to think, what can I do to make the world better? In that way, anybody can be Jewish. Shabbat Shalom.